by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm Jonas Holdeman. And we want you to know, if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and people curious about living a life free of supernatural beliefs. This is a call-in show, and we invite your calls to the number that is given on the screen.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun meetup, often meeting at a bar or restaurant. Tonight's meetup is going to be at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Old City for food, drink, and conversation. And Friday, we often meet for happy hour at the Beard and Beer Market. To find us at either one of these places, look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. However, mostly just look for the biggest group there, because we've got a pretty good-sized group.
Oh, the Rationalists of East Tennessee have monthly activities on the first and third Sunday mornings that are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussion. The second Sunday is a book club, and the fourth Sunday is the Reflections Gathering, which is a potluck afternoon gathering in a member's home. Today is Tuesday, April 28th, 2015, and we'll be talking about Larry's new book, Atheism, what's it all about. But first, in the news.
Kate Hardeman at University of Notre Dame writes that the University of Florida was hit with a cease and desist letter from a pro-atheist group, the Freedom from Religion Foundation legal activist organization, which is demanding that a Bible verse etched in its new heaven or hall be removed. The complaint letter, addressed to President Dr. Kent Fuchs, F-U-C-H-S, Fuchs, protests a short verse inscribed along an arch in the one-year-old collegiate Gothic-style business school at the Gainesville-based public university. The verse is Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God.
The FFORF stated in an April 13th letter by Andrew Seidel, an attorney with the foundation, this inscription violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment and cannot remain on university property, that is, public schools, as part of the government, or public schools as part of the government may not promote, endorse, or advance any religion. Adds Seidel, this inscription demonstrates a school preference for religion over non-religion and for Christianity over all faiths. When a school chooses to display a verse or excerpt from a religious text, it signals to students who hold differing beliefs that they are outsiders and that they are excluded from the campus community.
Right. It's one thing to take a part of the Bible that just has maybe good advice or something on it and put it up on a wall. I don't think the Freedom from Religion Foundation would have much problem with that. But this particular verse promotes religion and promotes Christianity. He says, walk humbly with your God. Do what the Lord requires of you. Now, you have to look at how many believers out there or of religions that call their leader a Lord. There's not that many. There's like one or two. Anyway, the Christian one, whether it's Catholic or Protestant. And so they're excluding everybody else in the entire school who does not have Christian faith, even if it's the other religions.
Well, it is Old Testament.
Right.
So one could say that it is
Jewish
or even Islamic, since Islam claims to come from the monotheistic tradition. Yeah. But it does represent a particular monotheistic religion from among all of the different religions that are practiced.
And it's touted by an entity of the state, of the government. They're pushing this particular type of religion over, say, Hinduism, Buddhism, non-belief, and that's just a non-starter where the First Amendment is concerned. Don't want to do that.
Larry, I have a question for you here. Your title of your book, Atheism, what's it all about? What prompted you to use this title?
Well, all the chapters in the book were originally part of my blog, and the blog is totally about free thought, secularism, humanism, and atheism, with an emphasis on atheism. If somebody wanted to learn about atheism and they didn't know anything about it, they could go to my blog. Or now I've got this book, which is basically the contents of my blog, separated into chapters for that purpose, to basically educate people about atheism where they may not know much about it to begin with.
Well, I haven't been following along, Larry, and I wasn't familiar with your blog. But so could you tell us how people can find this information and follow you on that blog? Okay,
digitalfreethought.com is just those three words put together. Digital, everybody knows how to spell that. Freethought is like one word, but it's all one word, .com. But once you go to that site, you'll have to look in the upper left-hand corner and click on the button for blog, and then it will take you to the blog. And I recommend that anybody who does that go to the very bottom of all the articles and start reading there, because that would be more like reading the book.
Oh, okay. Well, I just got a copy, a PDF copy yesterday, and started reading it, and haven't gotten but through maybe a third of it so far. And so one of the chapters answers this next question, and but for those who haven't read it, can you tell us a little about yourself and why you think you can tell us what atheism is all about?
Oh, well, I've been an atheist for 43 years. I went to UT here in Knoxville, and during that time I met my first atheist. Until I met that person, I didn't know that non-belief was an option. The church and the religious people that you meet all would basically try to convince you that the way you think about God not existing is an aberration in society. Therefore, it's not an option for you to go against the grain as far as God belief goes.
Yeah. As a child, you were nominally Baptist. Is that correct?
I was a Southern Baptist. Yes.
Okay.
I was baptized about age of 11, but it was basically through peer pressure. We went to church pretty much early in my life, but after that, my mom, who was the religious leader of the house, stopped going to church because she was just tired of hypocrisy. People would talk the talk, but they'd never walk the walk of love and compassion, empathy that Jesus would have taught through the Bible, through the New Testament.
Yeah, this was in West Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. It was Camden, Tennessee, is where I grew up.
Okay, and so later you came to establish the Atheist Society of Knoxville. Can you enlighten us how that happened?
Well, I was an atheist for 43 years, but I was in the closet for 30 of those years. I didn't really care about religion. I didn't participate, but I never really thought it would do much harm. I didn't pursue that avenue as much as I could have until 9/11 happened. And here was a religious group using their faith to bring destruction to humans, to my fellow man. At the same time, I happened to be reading a book by Carl Sagan called The Demon-Haunted World, where he speaks about the problems of supernatural belief, of superstition, horoscopes, the occult, things like that, and the problems that they have caused throughout the history of mankind, where they stunt scientific research.
Well, actually, any other thought. Which includes the scientific view of the world.
Right. So when that happened, it was about you know the date 9/11. That reading that book And George W. Bush taking my tax dollars and giving them directly to faith-based initiatives or churches pulled me out of the closet, made me start the Atheist Society of Knoxville. And it's been 13 years and 550 members we have now. So it's been a good trip, a good assembly. It's made a lot of people come out of their own closet and allowed them to have society with other non-believers. The Rationalists of East Tennessee is also, of course, a group like that, and I was a member of the Rationalists of East Tennessee at that time. But at that time, they weren't doing very much outreach, and they certainly weren't using the atheist word, and I felt that there should be a group specifically for people who don't mind wearing the word and trying to redeem the word, rather than just avoiding it.
using other words like
right.
A naturalist or
yeah.
or even agnostic, which is more acceptable. But it's had its ups and downs. You had a very low period. Could you tell us about that?
Well, to begin with, everybody's heard of the atheist movement now, but back then there was no atheist movement. There were a few books that were in the works. Richard Dawkins had started working on his book. Hitchens, Sam Harris, even Dan Barker had started working on a book. But there was one particular thing that I found a lot of solace in, because I kept looking for free thought resources, and there were very few of them at the time. But there was one guy out of Atlanta, Georgia, that I found a podcast. He was one of the earliest podcasts back in like 2000, and his name was the Infidel Guy. His real name was Reginald Findley, but the Infidel Guy, he would put out a podcast every week, and it was an hour and a half or 2 hours long, and he introduced me to some of the main free thinkers of our time, all the people I mentioned earlier and several more, and I've downloaded a whole bunch of those and listened to them during that time. So
there was a low point.
Mm-hmm. I also started my website, digitalfreethought.com, to try to get more information out. My first few meetings, I put an ad in the paper to get people to come out to an atheist meeting, and nobody showed up. Of course, the first couple of times I was sitting there by myself next to an atheist sign in a coffee shop, and back in 2000, that wasn't a very respectable thing, I guess, to do.
No crowds gathered around.
No crowds gathered, at least not the right crowd. But no, I really had no trouble. And that went on where we get an occasional member. I started the meetup. I had the group going before I started a meetup. And then during the meetup, I started getting more and more people. But this went on until like 2008, and we had maybe 15 people a month showing up at our monthly meeting. But then we had an incident at the Tennessee Valley UU Church. You remember that? Somebody carried a shotgun in a guitar case, sat it down. This was in the vestibule where they were having a children's play. And this man pulled out a shotgun and just started shooting people. Now, luckily, the people close to him tackled him, got him down well before the police ever got there, and took care of the incident. He was arrested. He's still in prison. Even our own Joe Barnhart was shot.
Yeah, most people don't know, but
that.
Joe was one of the, Joe and his daughter and his brother, and very close friend was killed.
Right.
So they were involved in that.
Right. So we're real lucky to still have Joe here doing the show with us, and him, of course, being with us. So that's a blessing, if you want to put it that way.
I guess it was after that I attended my first meeting of your group. Mm-hmm. It was over at Panera's there in Cedar Bluff, and my wife was very much concerned about my safety.
Right. That's the thing about it was we had like 15 people a month come into our meetup, and this is like 8 years after we first started the group, 7 years. But after the UU church shooting, the attendance went down to 3 people. And we didn't really know what caused it. We thought, well, maybe it was the shooting, but we didn't really think so. People were just scared to sit next to an atheist sign. The very next month, it went down to 2 people, me and one other person. So I decided to follow what I'd kind of wanted to do all along, was to, instead of doing a monthly group at a sandwich shop, we'd do a weekly group on a particular night of the week at a restaurant that served beer and pizzas, things like that. And it really took off after that. Atheists like to drink beer, who knew? But it really did. Nowadays we're getting anywhere from 25 to 30 people every week that show up. We're getting good outreach, a lot of word of mouth. So
and as you say, if you meander on down to Barley's
right.
in 15 minutes,
mm-hmm.
Give them a little time, but it'll be the largest group there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
right.
long
it's
table?
the largest group. If you go into the main bar area of Barley's Tap Room Pizzeria, there will be a really long table. There might be anywhere from 20 to 30 people sitting at that. They usually gets more crowded later on, so if you're there at 5:30 or 6, you may not see too many people, but stick around.
And lots of people and lots of different subjects to talk about.
Right. You guarantee good conversation.
Well,
sure.
Tell me, Larry, what made you want to write this book, and how long did it take?
It took 2 or 3 years. If you consider the beginning of where I started putting together the website and putting the information that I eventually used in the book on the website. What made me want to do it was to try to counterbalance some of the Christian apologetics that were going around. When someone talks to you about Christianity and you come up to them and you give them a question that you think is a tough question, they a lot of times will give you an involved answer or some weird kind of strange thing like it's God's a mystery. We don't know what he's thinking about. He's the potter, we're the clay. You know, all these things that if you spent 2 seconds thinking about it, you'd realize it's just a ploy, just a
kind of a cliche.
A cliche bumper sticker type answer. And it really, if you think about it, they don't hold water. So I tried to put the answers down in as best I could on the website and in the articles I was writing, and make those available to the general public through the blog.
Well, you have, let me see, 52 chapters that presumably are from your blog.
Right.
It must be quite a task to kind of like a writer of a column in the newspaper to have to come up with a new topic and new discussion.
Well, coming up with a new idea really isn't as hard as you would think, because you're constantly being bombarded with these. I have a Google search alert that sends me an email whenever Google finds an article that has been published about free thought or atheism or separation church and state. And when I get one of those emails, it may spark me to write an article about it. And that's where a lot of these came from. But mainly they came from Christian apologetics and arguments that I see on the internet where Christians put up like maybe a meme that says, turn or burn, where is your soul going to end up? There was a letter to the editor in response to one of my letters saying that no matter what your argument's on, the fact is, at the end of the day, your soul is going to be standing in front of the Maker. And how many fallacies are in that? We have no proof that souls exist. We have no proof that any kind of existence carries on after our death, or that it lasts for eternity, or if there are places for souls to go. But people have heard this stuff all their life, so they never think about questioning it. Of course there's souls. Of course there's heaven. Of course we live forever. I'd beg to differ.
Well, if it's repeated often enough, it must be true.
Exactly. If you repeat a lie long enough, it turns into the truth.
Oh. So I see this is the front the cover of your book. Very attractive cover, and poses some questions. Why those questions, and what do they have to do with the contents of the book?
Well, one of them is what's wrong with religious faith. People, particularly Christians, religious people, even Muslims, the stronger their religious faith, the more they fall in line with the dogma of the church and the dogma of the teachings. But the thing about it is, faith is not, and I write an article about this, is not a good guide to epistemology. It's not a good guide to knowledge. And all you have to do is really ask yourself, if I question my preacher, let's say that I go to my preacher and I say, why would God test Abraham by killing his son, or asking him to kill his son? Why would he test him when he already knows everything in the universe? He would know how Abraham would do it. He wouldn't have to put his son through that type of
trauma,
abuse and trauma. Why would he do that? And your preacher would just say, just have faith that the Bible is true, or have faith that God knows what he's talking about. And basically, he's saying, suspend your disbelief. He's saying, believe us no matter what. And the thing about it is, every preacher on the planet of every different religion is using the same line to all their believers. So, a Muslim who doesn't understand it is asking, how can this be so? And I have faith, my son, that what I'm telling you is true. And every religion does it, so how can it all be true, and how can it be a way to find out what truth is?
Yeah, so you also have the question, why did my child turn to atheism?
That's what I center the first 5 or 6 articles in the book about. There are people, and this lady represents one of those, who are facing a growing realization, a growing number of people, loved ones that they have found are turning away from their faith. They're turning to atheism, and like the lady on the cover, can't understand it. It's troubling her. She doesn't make any sense. To her, faith has been the best thing in the world, because everybody tells her that faith is the best thing in the world and that you shouldn't question your beliefs. But now, people that she knows and loves are turning away from the faith, and she can't understand it. So the first 5 chapters are talking about that problem and trying to bridge the gap in communication between that person and their loved one, so that they might have a little better understanding and at least start the conversation with them, so that they won't have this wall built between them forever.
Yeah, I can see concern on a number of different levels. Mm-hmm. There's the social concern, given that congregations, and I come from a long line of Mennonites where shunning was practiced. Mm-hmm. And to the extent that, if someone was out of favor with the church, they couldn't eat at the same table as the others.
Basically peer pressure.
Yeah.
It's a way of pressuring the person back into conformity with the rest of the group.
So I can see how if particularly in those church communities, congregations that are practicing that kind of shunning, mm-hmm. that a parent would be concerned that the action towards or attitudes towards this child may reflect on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, shunning is very big in the Latter-day Saints, in Mormonism, and in Islam. It's a downright crime for you to fall outside of the religion or break any of the Sharia laws that they have, because the Sharia laws are the religious laws. So they have the force of government behind their shunning, and it usually takes place of punishment as well as just ignoring the person. Well, we're about halfway through the program. Would you like to take a mid-program break?
Hey, sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay, in case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most every Tuesday from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock Eastern Time on this community access TV station. You can also see it streaming online outside of the Knoxville area by going to ctvknox.org.
This is a call-in show, and we're live today, April 28th, 2015, and viewers can call in now to the number that's shown on the screen.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville meets 2 times a week. We have evening meetups for food, drink, and conversation. Of course, we talked about that a little bit earlier. We're going to be meeting down at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Old City. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for camaraderie, community, and outreach to atheists, agnostics, and freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. Sam, would you mind running the informational video?
If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else, well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun. Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee has Sunday activities involving lively presentations and discussion of subjects topical and timeless. Once a month, we get together for a book club, and you need not have read the book to attend, but of course it helps.
Both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee help provide a social outlet where you'll find that if you don't believe in God, you'll find also that you are not alone.
Oh, before we get back to the program, we need to draw your attention to activity that's coming up this Saturday in just a few days. We'll have Dale McGowan, who's going to speak
May 2nd.
On May 2nd, Saturday, May 2nd, 2 p.m. in Goins Auditorium at Pellissippi State Technical, I guess the technical is gone now, Pellissippi State Community College.
In the main auditorium.
That's the main auditorium in the Goins building.
Right.
And we usually have a nice turnout for that and refreshments served afterwards. Now, Dale is coming up from Atlanta, and we'll talk about some things that atheists don't know about atheism that kind of arose when he collected when he was working on a book that he just has out, and we try to select speakers to invite who are usually well known in the Freethought community, but also good speakers.
Right. This is one of our main presentations of the year, so try not to miss it. It should be a really good one. The book that he was researching for this is the middle one. It's Atheism for Dummies. So if you didn't know there was a dummies book for atheism, there is, and he wrote it. And this lecture will be about the things that he learned while researching that book.
Okay. Well, we hope to see visitors from particularly from the Freethought community, but then there are others who come just out of curiosity and have interesting questions.
If it's enlightening to atheists, it should be enlightening to the general public as well.
Okay.
One thing, let me make sure we make a call out to our callers or our viewers that we are a call-in show. The number is at the bottom of the screen, and your calls are welcome anytime.
Okay, and we have Freethought Forest on the phone
manning the
outside, ready to receive your call and let us know if you're calling. Okay, so Larry, can you tell us about some of the chapters in your book?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of topics on there that I try to cover, and I try to make it conversational in tone, so that it's not very thick. I mean, very heavy going as far as that goes. But at the same time, I try to keep the chapter size down for the blog itself. Nobody wants to go to a website and read a blog that's 30 paragraphs long or 50. So I try to consolidate it down to the nut of the matter, basically, and talk about that. Some of the things that I mentioned in my book or try to elucidate on are power of prayer, and actually how spurious it is, because God basically would know what we want to ask for. Is it He won't answer our prayers until we ask? Or is it not in His plan? And if it's in His plan, why are we asking for it? If it's not in His plan, He won't do it anyway. So, I mean, we talk about that in the book. Talk about morality and how atheists can be moral. Misconceptions of evolution. Why atheists aren't afraid of going to hell. Let's see what else. Oh, finding purpose without religion in your life. There's a chapter on atheists and how they find value in life. There's quite a few things here. Like I say, there's 50 different topics, 52 mostly, and I think that I give them pretty good coverage in here. But I try to be conservative on words, so you shouldn't have to spend too much time in any particular chapter, and you can jump around since it's they're not flowing as a story. You can jump to any particular chapter that you want to.
So it's truly a collection of essays.
It is.
And each one of these 52 chapters is probably just a couple of pages long. I think you had a total of 150
some are longer than others.
So 2 or 3 pages long. Yeah.
Right. But it's a wide variety of topics that I try to cover in here.
Okay. Any more chapters that you want to particularly draw our attention to?
Well, one of them anyway is it's entitled "Belief Comes from Some Very Real Costs. Don't Ignore Them." And I'm not talking about just if you believe in God, you have to go to church, and if you go to church, you have to give money. I'm talking about that you have to give up on your understanding of science, or if you're going to believe it, be a young Earth creationist or a creationist per se, you have to throw that out the window. You have to give up your time to Bible study and conversations and community with other believers, which may or may not be good for you if you're ignoring secular people, basically because they don't have a religion with you, or other religions for that matter. I also talk about the Big Bang and what the evidence is for the Big Bang. I talk about church-state separation, of course, that goes without saying. I couldn't have a book on atheism without talking about that. But, I touch on an awful lot of different topics, and if a person wanted to, they could go to Amazon, find the book, and look at the table of contents. And you can also download a sample of the book and read it to get a good idea of the conversational style and what type of thing I cover.
Yeah, I as I said, I started reading it yesterday evening, and got about a fifth of the way through. And one of the chapters that I really struck me, I thought it was very interesting, is the one on what the Bible could have said. Right. I think you did a show on that some years ago.
If you think that the Bible is the word of an omniscient, all-powerful God who cares for us more than anything else, it might have come across a little more loving than our Bible, which basically comes down to what it sounds like is a war chief with a micromanagement complex. So
okay, we can get back to this, but right now, We have a caller on the line. Hello, caller. Would you please give us your name or a nickname, please?
Hey, well, I'm the caller here. I'm cheating today, though, because I'm listening in on the show.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't pass up, as you were talking about one of the topics of the chapters where you mentioned something regarding a meaning to life, and that they couldn't, that believers couldn't find a meaning to life without a God. And as a lifelong non-believer, it feels almost to me like that's the wrong way around. That my goodness, if you believe there's a God that's, in a sense, just pushing you around, you have no meaning. You're just sort of like a little tool.
Yeah, it's...
To the extent that a hammer has meaning and that it drives nails, well, okay, but it just seems like life can't be given meaning by you being a tool.
Yeah, it's almost like if you were a slave before the Civil War in the South, your life had meaning because you had to serve your master. I mean, that's not much of a meaning for your own life when you're basically capitulating that life to another person.
It's interesting. We see an example of a culture that is kind of forced on the slave to serve the master, and done forcefully enough so that the slave can't think of anything otherwise.
Right. And if you consider the fact that, well, as atheists, we don't believe that God is real, and because there are so many different gods and everybody believes a different thing about the gods and different religions, that not any particular one of them could be true, any more true than anybody else. So God isn't real. Let's take that as a takeaway from that first statement. And then if you're living your life for God, who are you really living your life for? It's the preacher, the clergy.
Right. The people who have that book, using it to extract monetary donations or political support.
Right.
And if you're, in a sense, you've surrendered your options in life to their whim.
Right.
And that's great evil going on there.
Right. Not only that, but if you consider that the Bible was written by the preachers of their time, then you're basically a slave to your own preachers and the preachers from 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. Robert G. Ingersoll wrote a whole essay on it. He calls it Ghosts, the Ghosts. And he's saying we're still slaves to ghosts of those preachers of the past. And we need to break that cycle, get out and get out of that cycle and learn how to live our own lives, take charge of our own lives, and find our own purpose.
And that we can only do so by making our lives meaningful.
Right.
No one gives us meaning in life. We make meaning in life.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to clear the line. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I think that questions are often posed in a way that presupposes an answer. So, you know, a person can be living a happy life, and then someone comes up to, well, what is the purpose of your life? And I don't think that requires some very deep thought to make it meaningful.
Right. Well, not only that, but the purpose of your life changes as you go through your life. The purpose of a student is to get good grades so that they can progress to the next level of schooling or education. The purpose of a husband is to provide, can be to provide sustenance and support for his family, et cetera, et cetera. And you can have multiple purposes at the same time. You could be writing a book while you're doing work on a project for employment, or you can be a member of a social group that has its own purposes. But the thing about it is, don't capitulate your life to somebody else. Make your own purposes. Your life is short. There is not another one. So make it count. And the one thing that I would tell or ask everybody is leave something for the next generation. If you're in science, of course, you're doing scientific research so that you can pass that on to the following generations. If you're a teacher, you're passing on education to the next generation. But there are many, many varied ways of doing that, but just we need to make that a priority to try to make the world better for the next generations and for humanity per se.
So you've already commented that that it's an easy book to read from two perspectives. First, the chapters are short, so that if you're busy, it doesn't take a lot of time to start a topic and to finish it. And second, since each one of the chapters or essays is self-contained, you don't have to remember where it was last time you were reading, where it left off.
And since they're fairly short, it may give you direction for your own research. You can pick 2 or 3 topics, look at them, see which ones that you like to pursue, and then go pursue them at your own speed, your own tempo.
Yeah, I must say that as I was reading through, I couldn't read it without a pencil. Oh. I had to write notes to remind me questions to ask you, and but things to follow up on, and so on. So what would you say is the most important message that this book will convey?
The message per se would be the claims that religion makes are not well-founded. They should be questioned. They should. You should not accept them on face value because there's more to them than that. Like, let's take the soul. You know, the preacher will tell you you must accept Jesus Christ in order so that your soul will live in heaven for all eternity, and that when God judges you, you will pass and end up in heaven. Well, that's like 5 different concepts, none of which have been proven, but you're expected just to accept them. My advice would be just to examine them. Let's take the soul per se by itself. Religion tells you that everybody has a soul. Never been proven. They tell you that the soul will live after the body dies. How can that be proven if we've never proven the existence of a soul? That it will live forever. Never been proven. That it will contain all of your memories and knowledge and personality. How can you prove that how can you accept that if the souls themselves have never been proven? That places like heaven and hell are real, that your whole soul goes there. It's never been proven that your souls exist, so how can we prove that there's a place or 2 places that for them to go? And each one of the places have to be separately proven. And in 2,000 years, nobody has ever proven that heaven or hell or souls are real. But we're expected just to accept them and tithe and do whatever the preacher tells us, or our soul will go to the bad place and live there forever.
Larry, I would like to kind of what I think is a correction. You keep saying Bible being 2,000 years old, but that's just the New Testament part of it, and
the Old Testament is about 2,500 years.
Yeah, right. It goes back probably when it was written down, but it speaks of things.
Well, the thing about that is, even the Old Testament, in the Old Testament, the Jews didn't believe that your soul went to heaven or hell. They believed that your soul, if it existed, just went to sleep with your parents, with your fathers, basically. And it wasn't until Jesus came along 2,000 years ago that the eternal punishment concept came into being. And we have Jesus, meek and mild, to thank for that.
Okay, I've got some things that I want to get to, but if we have time. But I guess to kind of stay on script, the next topic I want you to talk about is will believers who read this book get offended?
Well, Probably some of them, if they do, because I'm be questioning their core beliefs. But you have to think that just the very existence of atheists offends some Christians. Like we were talking, we've got another news story that we may want to get to if it's not too late, where this Freedom from Religion Foundation tried to put up or was there American Atheists, tried to put up a bus ad campaign. And all they put on the ad, I mean, you know how our sign, we have a sign that just went up here a couple of weeks ago, and all it said was, if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. That was it. I mean, there was hardly exacerbating or caustic message, basically saying, hey, we're out here, you know, if you don't believe, come join us. But the bus campaign that we were talking about, all it had on the sign was the word atheist and the name of the group. And that was enough for the bus advertising people to say, no, you can't put that up.
Dirty words.
Yeah. I mean, just that one word. No, you can't put it up. It's too controversial. So they took off the word atheist and just put the name of the group, and they let them put it up. And the name of the group was Free Thinkers. But, I mean, just our existence will offend some people. So, yes, I think some believers, if they read this, will become offended. But it's not my purpose. I do not try to do that in the book.
Yeah, I guess I take a different kind of tact about offense. There are those who say, don't do this because you might offend someone. Well, the offense is a response of the other person. Mm-hmm. And so in a sense, I don't have a lot of responsibility for the way they react.
But yet they want you to take that responsibility for their reaction. So it's silly. I do have one chapter in the book that talks about should we use ridicule in our conversation with Christians, and I won't give my opinion on that, so you'll buy the book. But it is discussed in the book, and
one would have to draw a line between satire and ridicule. Mm-hmm. One being usually acceptable.
Right.
Okay. Will atheists who read this book learn anything?
I would think so. If you're an old atheist like me and you've been around anti-apologetics for a long time, you may not get much takeaway from it. Hopefully it'll be entertaining reading enough, just from the prose. But if you're new to atheism and you're confronted with Christian apologetics and you don't really know how to answer the apologetics, then this book, I think, would help you quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Looking through, I see things that, this kind of core belief, if you wish, mm-hmm. that just going along. But perhaps not knowing how to express those ideas. The book, mm-hmm. And your book and other authors help you to learn how to word a
right. And that, of course, a lot of how I got to where I am now, as far as Christian apologetics and counter apologetics, is reading other books. I read quite a few other books, watched videos, and listened to lectures, and podcasts, a million podcasts. But I tried to distill most of that into the book so that it is represented there.
Do you have any advice for anybody who would want to take up writing a particular book on this subject?
The best advice that I got when I was starting out was, don't worry about getting it right, get it down. Get it on paper or in your computer or whatever. Don't worry about your syntax or your punctuation or whatever. You can always go back. Now, we live in an electronic age. It makes it so easy to spell check and go back and revise and reposition paragraphs for better effect. Just get it down, sit down, and sometimes you'll feel like you've just got to get it out. If you don't have somebody to talk to your computer as far as getting the information into it. With the personal tablets, taking dictation. You can do that literally by talking to your computer and open a document and start talking. You can always correct it later.
Yeah. So do you work by typing it in or voice recognition?
I use a typewriter. I mean, word processing. What's funny, what I was smiling was that I've been typing all my life. I learned to type. Now, this is in the 60s. I went back when typewriters, Selectrics were what everybody was using. And I took typing class in high school because that was where the girls were.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I could have taken that or home ec, and I didn't want to take home ec. So I've been typing since I was 16. And when I got in the Navy, I got out of a lot of kitchen duty because I learned how to type earlier. So I recommend keyboarding, but everybody's getting keyboard classes now, so it's usually not a problem.
Yeah. I guess back during the era when a lot of stuff went to type, you could type reflexively without thinking.
Right. That's how I learned.
Where is that?
The Columbus method. You find it and land on it. Oh, there it is.
Oh. Well, Larry, do you have any more books in the works?
Well, I could be working on the next book on the I wrote an article yesterday or the day before and put it on the blog. That could be the start of the next book. So we don't know until we get there, but I don't plan to stop writing. So I'll say, yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah, I of course don't write on this subject. I'm doing some research in mathematics and physics kind of thing, and I find that writing helps me to organize my thought processes. I guess if you're a teacher, you can get up in front of the class and you have an audience that you're trying to communicate with, and you can organize your thoughts that way. But if you don't, if you're alone, then it is certainly a way of organizing and clarifying those thoughts.
Right, that's true.
And so there was a time when everything came out in paper, and but now the big thing is e-publishing. What can you tell us about e-publishing and how this process was for you?
Well, finding a publisher is really hard. It's probably the hardest thing that you can do once you've written a book. E-publishing makes it so much easier. You go on to, like Amazon, and you fill out a form basically saying that you want to put your book up for sale. And they help you set a price. They help you with the cover. This was art from Amazon that I'm using on the cover there.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
But I chose it. But, excuse me. But once you do this and you read their terms and agreement and all that stuff, you can actually have your book up within a couple of days. I mean, It's just amazing. And what's really nice about it is you can still look for a publisher. You can pull it off of the market as easily as you put it on the market. So if you later on find somebody who wants to publish it in real, like paperback or hardback, then you could terminate your license or your agreement with them and go ahead and make it.
Now, do you have this in just PDF form, which you sent me,
PDF.
or do you have it on ebook where now it scrolls and everything to fit your tablet or
if
screen?
you go to Amazon and you get the book, it'll be in Kindle format.
Oh,
it will be Kindle readers are free. I mean, if you don't have a Kindle device, all you got to do is just download the app on your iPad or your iPhone or whatever, even on your computer at home. And the app, you can get the app for free through Google or through your iPhone or iDevice. And once you do that, then you can just download it and it will send it directly to your device and you can have it. So it's not in PDF. It's just that I happen to have a copy in PDF and it was easy to send it to you that way.
I think you have a message over there, Larry.
Oh.
We do have an audience here today.
I don't think that actually happened. So we'll go around that. But thanks for bring that up.
Okay, now, back 2 minutes. Original sin. I got to think you were talking about original sin and eating the fruit of knowledge and why would knowledge be bad. I got to thinking, now suppose this fruit were hallucinogenic, which people engage in hallucinogens in order to supposedly reach out and contact the world beyond the natural world, and so I was wondering if the thought occurred to me that maybe this was hallucinogenic and regarded as an attempt to get an insight into God's world rather than the physical world.
Yeah, but again, it's simply a claim, and Adam and Eve, as far as modern science says, never really existed. Of course, there's no such thing as a Garden of Eden, et cetera, et cetera. But the metaphor is excellent, in what you're saying. But one of the things I bring out in the book is that it's just another claim. Religions make all these claims, and they just expect you to buy into them, just take them at face value. Like the fact that a fruit can contain knowledge and be passed to the person who eats the fruit. I mean, that's nuts. The only information the fruit can pass to you when you eat it is the knowledge of the flavor of the fruit and the texture of it.
Yeah. Okay. You did we get to that other in the news item that you wanted to bring up?
We did bring it up and talk about it briefly. That was the one about the atheist sign on the bus.
Yeah.
That was.
Now, our experience with our local sign, "Don't believe in God, you're not alone." I mean, it just went up a couple of weeks ago, but it's something we've been working on for years, and we're denied
access to the media
because it would be too controversial, which is something that the Lenore City High School was using to censor some of their students, that if we allowed this to be published, it would be...
That's true. And even when it did go up, after so many years, we finally got it up, the owner of the property tried to censor us by telling Lamar, the advertiser, that we had to take it down. And they said that they would renege on their contract with the property, with Lamar, to allow them to put their sign on their property if they didn't. So there they are, just here we are saying, you're not alone, we've got a group, come join us. But that was too much for the property owner.
But there's another thing that strikes us is that is we've tried to get signs up on the bus, Knoxville Transit bus, and they refuse.
Even to this day.
Yeah. Okay.
We've not had any luck there. Well, it's time to start wrapping things up. Get your pen and paper ready. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Please send us feedback. Leave voicemail at 865-272-9060, and we'll try to get back to you there. Or you can email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
You can see this show every Tuesday from 5 to 6 o'clock on Eastern Time on this Knoxville station, or streaming online at ctvknox.org.
We would like to give our thanks to Forrest, Sam, and all of the other staff here for technical support. And
we'll see you next week.
Remember, examine your beliefs.
Gone.